The most surprising thing about crows so far has been their ability to recognize and remember particular people, and even just particular faces.
Scientists just fed thousands of hours of crow recordings into a next-gen AI, expecting simple behavior patterns. Instead, the AI sent back something straight out of a sci-fi nightmare. It decoded their calls, exposed their maps, and revealed the truth.
These are too many negative characteristics for people today, who no longer have the unspoiled perspective of earlier generations.
Crows have been watching us, tracking us, talking about us. What we hear as random noise is actually a communication network, detailed enough to recognize human faces and possibly share information about specific people.
They can also recognize faces and can hold a grudge against someone who was rude to them for several years.
Which means one thing: you might already have a reputation in the crow world, and today we're going to find out what it says. So before we uncover what the crows might already know about you, make sure to subscribe to the channel What the Machine Heard in the Dark. The goal was simple. They wanted to see if the machine could sort the noises. You know, put the "I found food" sounds in one box and the "there is a hawk" sounds in another. It was supposed to be a basic sorting task. But here is the catch. The AI did not just sort the noises, it started to panic. Well, not literally, but the data output spiked in a way that made no sense to the human observers. The computer was finding patterns that were way too complex for a bird. Basically, the AI was finding syntax. In human language, syntax is the set of rules that make a sentence make sense. It is the difference between saying, "the cat sat on the mat," and "Matt cat thee sat on." One is information, the other is gibberish. We always assumed animal noise was just emotional gibberish. A dog barks because it is excited. A cat purrs because it is happy. But the AI was seeing structure. It was seeing grammar. The researchers watched as the machine isolated a specific sequence of sounds. Let us call it the red hat sequence. In the recordings, a man wearing a red hat walked through a park. A crow called. To a human ear, it sounded like any other screech, but the AI analyzed the frequency, the pitch, and the spacing between the notes. It tagged this sound as a unique identifier. 3 days later in the data, the same man walked through the park again. The same crow made the sound again. That is interesting, but it is not groundbreaking. A dog knows its owner, right? But then things got weird. A week later, a different crow, one that had never seen the man before, made the exact same sound when the man walked by. Do you realize what that means? It means the first crow did not just make a noise, it described the man. It transmitted a packet of data, a name, to the rest of the flock. The AI showed that this specific sound was never used for anyone else. It was a proper noun. They had named him, and that is putting it lightly. The deeper the AI dug, the more terrifying the results became. It found that these conversations were not just happening in the moment. The machine detected conversations that happened before an event occurred. Crows were gathering in trees and making complex sequences of sounds that the AI determined were planning phases. They were not just reacting to the world, they were strategizing about it. The analysis revealed that a huge chunk of their communication, perhaps the majority of it, revolves around us, humans. We are the main characters in their story. The AI picked up distinct emotional markers attached to these human labels. Some were neutral, but many were negative. They have specific alerts for human with stick versus human with food. This changes everything. For centuries, we have looked at crows and seen pests or scavengers. We threw rocks at them or shooed them away, thinking they were just mindless birds. But all that time, they were taking notes. They were building a profile on you. And now that we have the technology to read those profiles, the question is not, can they speak? The question is, what happens when they decide to stop just talking and start acting? The implications are staggering. If they have names for us, do they have a history for us? The AI suggests the answer is yes. It found patterns that repeated over the years, passed down from older birds to younger birds. Your reputation in the crow world might be older than your car. You might have a criminal record in the sky that you do not even know exists. And the craziest part, the AI is just getting started. It has only decoded the surface level of their chatter. What lies underneath is a web of intelligence that makes our surveillance state look like a child's toy. The unseen eyes are judging you right now. How they hack reality. So how can this actually be possible? We are talking about a bird, right? A creature with a head about the size of a walnut. It does not seem physically possible for something that tiny to handle a language that complicated. But here is the interesting part. For a long time, humans have been measuring intelligence the wrong way. For years, we believed the cerebral cortex was the only part that mattered. That is the wrinkled outer surface of the brain humans possess. It is where thinking, planning, and solving math happens. Birds do not have a cerebral cortex. So for nearly a century, scientists examined bird brains, noticed they were smooth, and said, "Yep, nothing much happening here." But nature loves surprises. Scientists later discovered birds evolved a different brain structure called the pallium. It may look different, yet under a microscope neurons are packed together so densely it is very unbelievable. A crow's brain is a powerful supercomputer packed into something the size of a USB drive. And here is the wild part. Their brain is about as capable as a chimpanzee's. That is why researchers started calling them feathered apes. Now take the New Caledonian crow. This bird is the Einstein of the bird world. Most animals, when they want food, simply use their mouths or claws. But these crows build tools, and not just grabbing a random stick either. They shape tools. There is a plant known as the pandinus. It grows long, spiky leaves. Scientists recorded these crows flying down, landing on the plant, and performing surgery. The crow slices into the leaf, then tears it in a step-like pattern. They are creating a saw. The jagged edge they form is perfect for pulling insects out of deep holes. This is not random behavior. This is engineering. They imagine a design in their mind and carry it out. If the tool snaps, they repair it. If they cannot locate the proper leaf, they improvise using wire or twigs. But the real mind-blowing moment comes from the water displacement experiment. You may remember the classic story about the crow and the pitcher. In that story, the bird dropped stones into a container so the water level would rise high enough to drink. Scientists wondered, is that story actually true? They tested it. They placed a tube filled with water in front of a crow with a floating treat inside. The crow could not reach the snack. Nearby, they left a pile of heavy stones and another pile of floating styrofoam. A less intelligent animal might throw everything into the tube, but the crow examined the stones, then the styrofoam, and paused. After that, it picked the heavy stones and dropped them in one at a time. It ignored the styrofoam. The bird understood density and displacement. It realized floating material would not help. It solved a physics puzzle in seconds that might take a human toddler minutes to understand. And here is another detail. They also grasp cause and effect. In a different experiment, crows saw a puzzle box where pushing a lever released food, but the lever was hidden. To activate it, they needed a stick to press a hidden button that triggered the lever. They solved it. They can build mental pictures of how mechanisms work simply by observing them. So when artificial intelligence tells us these birds might have language, we should not be shocked. Their brains already support that ability. They are not working from instinct. They are thinking with logic. They study the world, test it, and reshape it to suit their needs. The unsettling part is not only that they use tools, it is that they observe us and treat us like another piece of a puzzle they are trying to solve. They understand how to manipulate objects, so learning to manipulate humans would not be impossible. They clearly have the brain capacity to attempt it. They are unlocking the physical rules controlling our world. Wanted posters in the trees. It is not only that they are intelligent, it is that they remember wrongs. And this is where the story becomes personal. If you believe you can bother a crow and simply walk away, you are making a huge mistake. Back in 2006, a researcher named John Marsluff at the University of Washington decided to test something. He wanted to find out if crows could recognize specific human faces, but he did not want to be attacked himself, so he purchased a mask, a caveman mask to be exact. He wore the caveman mask and went outside to capture and ban several crows on campus. He was not harming them, only tagging them for research, but the crows hated it. They screamed loudly, they struggled, and they were finally released. Then Marsluff removed the mask and returned to his normal routine. He also had another mask, a mask of Dick Cheney, the vice president at that time. When he walked around wearing the Dick Cheney mask, the crows did not react. They ignored him completely. But the instant he wore the caveman mask again, chaos erupted. The crows bombed him, they scolded him loudly, they chased him across campus screaming. Okay, you might think, so what? The 7 birds he caught simply remembered him. But here is the twist. It was not only those 7 birds. As the days passed, the number of crows attacking the caveman mask increased. First there were 7, then 20, then 40. Birds that had never been captured, birds that were not even alive when the experiment started, began attacking the mask. Marsluff returned to that campus 5 years later wearing the mask. 5 years, and the crows still attacked him. The birds originally trapped were mostly gone by then, but the next generation knew. They recognized the face of the enemy. This proved something unsettling. The crows had described the face. They had shared the exact visual details of the threatening human with their friends, their neighbors, and their offspring. They had basically placed a wanted poster in the sky. The AI study we discussed earlier supports this idea perfectly. Remember the Red Hat sequence? That is the sound version of what Marsluff witnessed. The crows keep a living database of faces stored inside their collective minds. They examine the distance between your eyes, the curve of your nose, even the way you move, and it gets even more complex. They can tell the difference between you and your neighbor. If you feed them and your neighbor throws stones at them, they might swoop down to greet you and then fly over to poop on your neighbor's car. They know exactly who is who. They constantly update this memory. The AI analysis revealed that when a recognized human enters an area, the signal spreads instantly. It is basically a broadcast alert. Target spotted, Sector 4. This means you cannot truly hide from them. You might change clothes, but you cannot change your face. And because they share information, you could annoy a crow at home, drive 10 miles to work, and discover the crows there already recognize you. Their network moves faster than your commute. We are living inside a surveillance system, and the guards have wings. They are watching us right now, recording our behavior and deciding whether we are friends or a threat. And once you land on the bad list, there is no appeal process. You are marked for life. Your face becomes their data. Crime and punishment in the sky. If their facial recognition already feels unsettling, wait until you hear about their culture. Because that is truly what it is. It is not only biology, it is a society with rules, traditions, and even funerals. When a crow dies, the flock does not simply fly away, they gather together. If you have ever witnessed it, it feels eerie. One crow discovers the body and gives a special call. Then everything becomes quiet. Dozens of crows land in the trees around the fallen bird. They do not eat it, they do not attack it, they only observe. Scientists once believed this meant grief, and maybe it does. But the AI suggests something more practical and far more intelligent. It might be a crime scene investigation. The crows study the location carefully. They search for clues. Was it a cat? Was it a car? Was it a human carrying a weapon? They collect information about the danger so they can spread that knowledge to the rest of the flock. The AI detected certain low-frequency sounds during these gatherings that appear to communicate the cause of death. They are creating an obituary that also works as a warning. And here's something even stranger, they seem to have a justice system. Researchers have documented what look like crow courts. A bird that steals food from a younger member or breaks social rules may be surrounded by the flock. They scream loudly at it, peck it, and sometimes drive it away. They enforce their own social order. That judgment also extends to humans. The AI analysis showed that crows can tell the difference between a person holding a stick and a person holding a gun. They can even recognize the difference between a hunter looking into the trees and a hiker watching the trail. In one fascinating part of the research, the AI noticed that the alarm call for human with weapon sounded completely different from human with umbrella. They understand the intention behind the object you hold. If you step outside with a broom to sweep, they stay calm. If you step outside with a broom ready to strike them, they disappear before you even lift your arm. They read your body language better than you read theirs. The surprising part is the gift giving. We mentioned the bad list earlier, but there is also a good list. People who regularly feed crows have reported receiving small gifts. Shiny beads, bits of colored glass, even coins. The AI discovered that the sounds they make around these friendly humans are softer, higher pitched, and seem filled with affection. It is almost like payment. They understand trade, food for loyalty, food for protection. They are taking part in a cross-species economy. This level of social complexity, funerals, courts, trade, and threat detection, means they are not just animals surviving beside us. They are a parallel civilization living above us. They have their own laws, their own stories, and their own enemies. And right now, the AI suggests they spend a great deal of time deciding exactly which group you belong to. They might already be judging you. They know we are listening. Here is where everything connects and where the story begins to feel like science fiction. We have already talked about how they watch us, but now we need to understand how they spread that information across the planet. The AI study mapped crow calls across different regions. What it discovered was astonishing. Crows have dialects. A crow in New York sounds different from a crow in London. That part makes sense. But the AI noticed that certain words, like the warning for a hawk or the signal for a food source, move across these dialects the way a viral meme spreads. A fresh call might begin in a neighborhood of Chicago. 6 months later, that identical vocal pattern appeared in St. Louis. It jumps from flock to flock, traveling hundreds of miles. It works like an analog internet. They are passing information across the entire continent. This means that if a new threat appears, maybe a certain type of drone or a brand new trap, the knowledge about that threat can spread faster than the object itself. They are updating their software constantly. They learn from each other's experiences without ever meeting face to face. We always believed humans were the only species capable of building knowledge this way. We write books, we post things online, but crows maintain an oral tradition that works almost the same. Each generation is not starting from nothing. They are building on what earlier crows already discovered. But here is the final and most unsettling part of the puzzle. Near the end of the AI study, researchers noticed a shift in the data. For months, the artificial intelligence had been quietly listening, like a digital ghost hiding in the treetops. It processed enormous amounts of bioacoustic data, decoding the complex patterns of crow communication and cataloging every squawk, rattle, and click. The algorithm was learning their social hierarchy, their warning signals, and even their gossip. It felt like humanity was approaching the first real translation between species. Then, during the final weeks of the study, the data suddenly changed. The crow calls shifted. A completely new pattern appeared, a strange rhythmic pulse in their voices that had never been documented in ornithology. It was not just a small regional dialect change. It looked like a total structural rewrite. This new vocal pattern spread through nearby flocks with incredible speed and soon began moving outward, jumping from territory to territory and forcing the AI's confidence scores to collapse. The system was no longer translating anything. It was only recording meaningless sounds. The scientists still do not understand what it means. The AI continues trying to decode it, running through endless combinations while searching for a Rosetta Stone that may not exist anymore. But some animal behavior experts have a theory, and it is unsettling. They believe the crows realized something had changed. They noticed the microphones hidden inside the tree bark. They noticed the camera lenses reflecting light between the leaves. But most importantly, they noticed something about the humans observing them. Crows often test boundaries, dropping nuts in front of cars or teasing predators to measure reaction times. This time the humans behaved differently. Instead of chasing them away, the humans froze, watching and recording every move. The crows realized they were being studied. The shift in their language might actually be encryption. It is a frightening idea, but the evidence seems to match. They may have realized we were cracking their code, so they changed the system. It sounds impossible, right? We prefer to think of encryption as something uniquely human, created from warfare and complex mathematics. But remember, these are birds that can solve multi-stage physics puzzles, recognize individual human faces for 5 years, and hold funerals for their dead. They pass knowledge down through generations. Is it really so difficult to imagine they have the mental flexibility to realize they are being watched and adjust their communication accordingly? If this theory is correct, then the silence we hear now is not an absence of communication. It is a protected channel. They have gone dark. They know we are listening, and they decided to move the conversation somewhere private. The chaotic sounds the AI records now might simply be interference. Random chatter meant to confuse the listener while the real information moves through a signal or method we have not even considered searching for yet. And that leaves us with one final chilling question. If they are intelligent enough to know we are listening and clever enough to hide their language, what are they discussing in the shadows? What are they planning now that they realize we know? The entire dynamic has changed. We are no longer invisible observers studying simple animals. The glass wall of the terrarium has been tapped from the inside. The rules of the game have shifted. We are not the only players anymore. So the next time you notice a crow watching you from a telephone wire, ask yourself something. Is it simply a bird, or could it be a scout uploading your face to the network? And if they know we are listening, what might they be hiding? What do you think about all this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And do not forget to press the like button if you believe we might not be alone, and subscribe for more fascinating mysteries.